encouraging a lot of children to follow scientific professions, and the next speaker as well. But they are doing it in a different way, in a very different way. They approach high-level scientists and students, primary and secondary students. How do they do it? Well, Eugenia Covernton is going to explain it to us. She's the CEO of the NGO Lectures Without Borders, and she's also a doctor in virology, and she's passionate about scientific communication.
Hi. So my name is Eugenia. I'm originally from Argentina, but I've been living, well, right now I live in London. I am running this organization called Lectures Without Borders, and like it says there, our aim is to connect scientists with schools around the world. So I guess everyone agrees that STEM education, so STEM meaning science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, education is very important, especially in young generations, not only for the development of critical thinking, but also to develop the skills that they will need to face the challenges of the 21st century. However, and unfortunately, there's huge inequalities in access to high-quality STEM education, depending on the socioeconomic level of the school and of the students. And this is something that many people are trying to find ways to solve. Millions of teachers around the world are doing their best to try to encourage students to be interested in STEM by doing, for example, hands-on projects or like project-based learning and other pedagogical tools that they continue to try to refine and to improve year after year. But this also is putting a lot of burden on teachers, because not only they have to try to improve their pedagogical skills, they also have to actually be training and try to keep updating their actual STEM knowledge. For the teacher to be updated in what's the latest news in biology is not so easy. And it's something that most teachers, unfortunately, today are not actually well paid to do. And that is something that we also, I guess, as a society need to keep fighting for, getting them actually properly compensated for the work. But what we are trying to do, so in my case, like Sonia said, I am a scientist, and what we as scientists are also trying to do, and many academic institutions around the world are trying to contribute to STEM education by organizing what is called outreach, science outreach activities, especially focusing on kids and adolescents. And the idea of these outreach activities is to present kids with examples of how science can be exciting, how science can be interesting for them. And these types of activities usually happen in academic institutions or close to academic institutions, which means that they usually tend to reach those schools that are already privileged, are schools that are already in urban areas, close to academic institutions, and usually of higher socioeconomic status. So there's a lot of barriers to access to these science outreach activities, especially for those schools that either don't have the availability of resources, or those academic institutions that don't have availability of resources to organize them. So either the school cannot host it, or the academic institution cannot host it, or the students need to actually travel somewhere, which also puts a burden on the school, because they need to provide a way to bring the kids to a science fair or to a science activity. And at the same time, of course, there's time constraints for both parts. Both an academic institution or a school would need to put a lot of time into organizing such an activity for a lot of kids. This, in turn, perpetuates the inequalities in access to STEM education and means that many schools can participate in these activities and many others are excluded. Lectures Without Borders, which sometimes is referred to as LeWiBo, is trying to contribute to at least try to reduce these inequalities. We do this since 2017, although we were formally established as an organization in 2019. It started with a group of friends, 4 friends, who were doing their PhDs or postdocs, and they were traveling a lot around the world, and they decided that they wanted to use their own trips to, whenever they had free time between, let's say, the conference and the evening dinner, they wanted to go to a local school and give a talk for free. They reached these schools by contacting their own friends or family members and trying to find a school in their destination, and the network started growing from there. And today, we are over 400 scientists in over 54 countries around the world, and the estimates vary between 1,000 and 8,000 schools, depending on how you count. So we are working in a very sort of simple equation. Whenever a scientist is traveling, they tell us where they're going, we find a school in their destination, and we coordinate a lecture. By we, I mean the network of scientists and schools that we have already been establishing for the last few years. Our lectures not only expose students to new knowledge, but they also provide them with new role models. They allow for cultural exchange, they help fight stereotypes, and they provide opportunities for scientists to improve their own communication skills. We try to be sustainable and to provide opportunities for sustainable science outreach and community engagement. By using existing trips of scientists, we try to minimize the need for traveling, both for the students and for the scientists, bringing the outreach activities to the schools. By creating local hubs of scientists and schools, we create a stronger network and favor collaboration between between local organizations. And by engaging students beyond the lectures, so doing more long-term activities, we encourage these schools to co-design projects with local scientists to solve local problems. Beyond doing in-person lectures, and this mostly because of the pandemic in 2020, we also, if scientists are not traveling or schools are not able to host them, we organize webinars, which were great for reaching more schools. However, we are also aware that they are not available to every school in the planet. And they did contribute to reach those schools that maybe physically were far away from places where people were traveling. So they did allow us to increase a lot the number of lectures that we are organizing. All our material, that's another advantage of the online lectures, can be made available online, and many more schools can contribute afterwards. Beyond lectures and webinars, we also organize other types of activities. Like we have this hands-on project that has been ongoing for 4 years in a row. That is a project on climate action, in which schools are mentored online by scientists from our network, but then there's a more long-term engagement by the teacher with in-person activities. We organize online and in-person science congresses, in which it was basically just a normal scientific conference, was happening yearly, 2 different types of conferences, actually. And what we did was organize talks that were tailored for kids to show them how science conferences work and what's the aim of them, and at the same time organizing in-person activities for the local schools. So remote schools could attend virtually, but local schools were also getting visits from scientists. What's coming next? Now we are in a moment of transformation. Like I said, we're trying to focus more on trying to grow the local hubs. One of the main projects that are going to help us do this is a project that we are currently trying to find funding for, called Women in STEM. It's a competition in which kids are going to be challenged to find and interview women working in STEM subjects in their own community. And then they will need to present this, the research of these scientists to their peers, basically. In the positive sides of this project, and the reason why we want to do it like this, is because in this case, we are encouraging schools to be the ones reaching out to local scientists, and then have these scientists as role models for their students. At the same time, this establishes more long-term interactions and a sort of follow-up. It's a very structured project, so it's easy in a way for the teachers to implement. And then it also has a sort of organic growth, because we are starting with pilots and trying to grow from there. If you want to know anything else or want to learn how to help us, Lectures Without Borders has this website that is LeWiBo.org that I am designing, so if you find anything wrong with it, just let me know. I'm the one building it. You can learn a lot about how we work, join our network if you are interested either as a scientist or as a school or as a partner. We also have an option for partners. And you will also find there all our policies, because this is a very important thing for anyone probably working with children. By signing up for being members of Lectures Without Borders, all of our scientists receive and agree to respond to a code of conduct and to our child safeguarding policies. All of this can be found on our website. Our dream is that one day the contact between scientists and students is part of everyday life for both of them, and that a constant dialogue between them and the bridge between scientists and schools encourages and enriches the work and the life of both. Like I like to say, because it was definitely my experience, the best thing about science outreach, especially with young children, is that the question of an 8-year-old can change the career of a scientist if the scientist is actually ready and open to listen. You can scan that QR code if you want to enter the website now, and otherwise I will be more than happy to answer any questions. I leave the email there, and thank you very much for your attention.